How's it going, guys? Beautiful Monday morning. I think we're going to be in for an exciting week. Hope you're doing great today. What I'm going to do in this one is actually going to be a little different of a format than my other ones. I'm going to take you through basically the show notes, cliff notes of what I'm going to be talking about here on the whiteboard. And then I have my TV actually set up here. So we'll do a poor man's news broadcast. I'm going to turn the camera and actually point to you the articles. We're going to read over a new Q post. And then I'm going to take you through some pictures that I wouldn't be able to do live because there's some things that I want to explain to you guys. So we'll see how it flows. You can let me know what you think of it in the comments. But what we're going to discuss, let me move over here, is obviously a new Q post, and Follow the White Rabbit was mentioned on mainstream media. I'll show you that article in just a sec here. So we're breaking through, folks. We're breaking through. There was an earthquake surge that's predicted to happen in 2018. We'll go over the article. They blame it on the slowing of the Earth's rotation, but of course there's multitude of factors that's going on with everything at this present moment. And with earthquakes and all these earth changes primarily, there's a lot of cosmic shifts occurring. I'll actually be doing my Ascension webinar tomorrow evening, and there will be a replay included in that. I will be discussing a lot of these things going on, astrological alignments. I'll be discussing the electric universe, discussing the solar shift that's we're expecting, and actually laying a scientific framework for it. So, of course, I will link that down below of this video, and I'll be linking a lot of these articles that we'll talk about down below as well. So go sign up. I appreciate it, and you'll get a replay. And if you can catch it, it's at 4 p.m. tomorrow Pacific. Be about 2 or 3 hours worth. We'll talk about Antarctica, and I'll discuss with you some of the deep state connections with Antarctica and touch on maybe a little bit of secret space program stuff. We'll go over a few articles discussing the shit show going on in the Middle East and how all of the elite, all of the deep staters are basically selling their goods, selling off their stock, selling off their properties, and running, trying to escape. And then just want to say, go follow me on Twitter and Facebook if you haven't yet. Thanks to all of you who do. I've been Twittering a bit more. It's actually fun. I've never really been into it, but getting into it now. And thanks to all of you who've subscribed to my Patreon. I uploaded a Patreon-specific vid yesterday, so if you're on that, you've seen it. Thanks to all of you who are supporting me there. And a couple notes. If you saw my video yesterday, I touched on this. I was calling the story going around of the Marines landing at Langley, landing at the CIA headquarters. I was thinking it was fake news because we haven't seen any evidence for it, but I've been hearing that it might be true in some regard. There might have been some kind of false flag that was stopped, and maybe, right? Maybe. I don't want to blatantly call it fake news. I just want to say there's been no evidence I've seen. But again, who controls the mainstream media? Talk about that with the Q questions in a sec. There's a lot of things we don't know, and there's a lot of disinformation going on as well, purposeful disinformation. There's a lot of psyop wars going on, so that's why this is all so fun. It's like a big spy versus spy game we're all trying to deduce, and I'm just doing it with a whiteboard and a TV now. And then, also Ben Fulford is one person who I've heard say it might be true, and a couple other people. And then, was Rothschild dead on Wikipedia? So I'll kind of shift this over. I want to show you something. It was interesting. We'll see if this works. Can y'all see that? My beautiful television. So yesterday on Wikipedia, it was just for about 15 minutes. Just for about 15 minutes on the Lord Rothschild's Facebook page, Jacob Rothschild. If you can see this here, it actually listed that he died on the 17th of November in an aircraft crash. And remember, there was an aircraft that crashed with a helicopter on Rothschild property in England, but of course, there was nothing that came out actually showing it was Rothschild. Keep that in mind, okay? We have no evidence proving that Jacob Rothschild died, but there was a crash on his property. Now yesterday, like I said, for 15 minutes, his Wikipedia page listed him as dead. So, what the heck happened, right? Did he actually die? Well, again, who knows these days? It's a possibility. Or was this a message? Was this a kind of message sent out to the Rothschilds by some white hats that said, hey, don't you try and fly because you'll probably die in an aircraft crash, so don't you try and go anywhere. Because of course we know Saudi Arabia crumbled, the House of Saud in the Middle East, and we'll talk about what's going on in the Middle East, but Rothschilds are next. That's what it's been said and speculated, is that the Rothschild family is next, so who knows, maybe this is a sign on his wiki page. It's funny. But anyway, into these articles, and this is the one I was talking about. Follow the white rabbit on the mainstream media, as you can see here. Dude, it's possibly the craziest conspiracy theory of all time. It was found on Metro. I think this is a website out of England, but look at this. Legitimately an article, and they're throwing in a ton of evidence. They're talking about the, they have a tweet posted here about the boot being around Clinton and McCain's leg. What are they trying to cover up? And it's really interesting. You know, Hillary in her van, they're actually showing the Fiji water thing, right? And they're showing Q's questions. They're legitimately showing links and the hashtags and everything. So it's like, okay, when I see this, first reaction I have is like, we made it, right? We made it on the mainstream media. This thing is blowing up so fast that they have to mind control us about it. They have to try and quash it, right? But then again, it's so blatant. This is so blatant that they're saying, okay, it's possibly the craziest conspiracy theory, but they're putting so much evidence. So when I look at this, I'm like, shoot, what if the mainstream media's changed? What if they're forced to change? Their tune has changed. What if these are white hats or alliance guys that are now pushing this information out there, and they have to play to the tune of what the mainstream media was doing, right? But like we'll discuss in Q's questions here, you know, what the heck is going on? How is our consciousness being seeded? Phone's gonna die. Let me plug it in. But now let's get into Q's questions, and I hope you can see it here. This is just the easiest way for me to do it. It's pretty neat to do it live, instead of taking all the time to edit it. So let's discuss. These were dropped on Sunday, last night, November 19th, and we'll just go through them. You know, a few of these I'm not going to answer because I just don't know, but I will answer the ones that I feel like I know some stuff about, offer some perspective out there. It says, what is a key? What is a key used for? What is a guard? What is a guard used for? Who unlocked the door of all doors? This is really cryptic shit we have here. I don't really know, but, you know, what's a key? What's a guard? Who unlocked the door of all doors? Was it pre-planned? Do you believe in coincidences? As Q has said, nothing is a coincidence. As, you know, it's amazing how esoteric this all is. I'm a studier of Dr. Carl Jung and a lot of his work. Nothing's a coincidence. You know, on whatever plane you look at it from, everything has a cause and effect. So, what is information? Q asks. Who controls the release of information? In all caps, who has all of the information? Who disseminates the information, right? And then, let's answer these. What is info? Data. Data. Could be right or wrong, but that's all information is data. Understand, you know? There's perspectives on all data. Who controls the release of information? For decades, centuries, if not millennia, it's tough to make a name for it. The deep state, the wealthy elite, the cabal, the, you know, whatever you want to call them, through their intel agencies, through their education system, and through their media, they have controlled the release of information. Who has all the information? They do. I would love to spend a few hours, if not weeks, going through what's in the Vatican Underground Library, right? So, that's who has all the information, the intel agencies. But then, you understand, like, everything's so compartmentalized these days that it's tough to say who has all of the information. Do you see? What is the MSM? Who controls the MSM? Who really controls the MSM? We just answered that. The deep state, the CIA, you know, through Operation Mockingbird, were able to infiltrate the mainstream media corporations in the 50s and 60s. In the past 4 or 5 decades, we've had mainstream media corporations consolidated from 50 down to like 5. So they consolidated them all, they monopolized them, and the CIA has embedded their agents into all of them. Or, you know, paid off the reporters. Why are we made to believe that the mainstream media is the only credible news source? Who controls the MSM? It repeats itself for added effect here because this is so important. Who controls it? Who controls the MSM? Why are we made to believe the MSM is the only credible news source? Because it's all mind control. Folks, Operation Mockingbird goes directly in line with MK Ultra and the mind control effects, right? It all comes from the CIA, and all of their programs are connected, whether you're talking about Operation Mockingbird, MK Ultra, the Montauk Project, Operation Paperclip, where all the Nazi scientists came over, Operation High Jump even, we'll talk about Antarctica in a sec, but it's all connected. Why is this relevant? You got to know you're being mind controlled to understand that you're not getting the truth and find the truth. You know, why are non-mainstream media platforms cast as conspiracy and or non-credible? Repeated itself, obviously, mind control. What happens when an entity or individual accumulates power? Define corruption. And then it discusses Twitter, which is interesting because obviously the main shareholder in Twitter, one of the main ones in Saudi Arabia, that prince was arrested. And then has the stranglehold of the MSM been diminished? What is open source? This is open source. I'm live streaming this to 2.4 thousand people right now. This is open source. You can see all my tabs and shit up here. And the mainstream media, it's so blatantly not open source that people just don't gravitate towards that, and they can see through the bullshit. And it has become blatantly obvious. Yada yada, a lot of stuff here. I'll post a link to this so you can go through it on your own and deduce. Because this is a long one, and what I want to get into, let's see. Down here, does the mainstream media shelter and protect selected party members? Absolutely. What prevents a news organization from simply making up sources and stories? Nothing. There is no law on the books. Like, what laws were put in place to protect the mainstream media from lawsuits? Nothing. I'll point to, and this has to do with actually Monsanto, you can go to a story in the early 90s where reporters were actually trying to report on bovine growth hormone and how cancerous it was. And the Supreme Court in Florida, there were two journalists that took this issue up to the Supreme Court because they were fired from their media corporation for reporting on it. They said, we're trying to report this to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said, well, as a private corporation, mainstream media is not legal. They're not accountable. They can literally make shit up. And it's because they're a private corp. And that's just one example that I know of. There's probably many more. I don't know what specifically it might be referencing here, but that's the beauty of all these questions. We each put our own pieces out there, and that's what's making all the puzzles and waking people the heck up so fast. It's beautiful. And then what else? This is an interesting one that I saw. What if Hugh Hefner was a clown in America? What if Hugh Hefner was, look at clown in America, all caps, clown in America, CIA. What if Hugh Hefner was CIA? And this makes absolute sense because with Hugh Hefner, Playboy Mansion, freaking incest cesspool capital right there, all they need to do is invite the up-and-coming people there, whether it's media or sports players or Hollywood, obviously, being in LA, or anybody, invite them to the Playboy Mansion, get them a little drunk, get them loosened up with a of-age person, slip him into a room with a lesser of age person, being boy or girl, and videotape him, blackmail him, right? Perfect place to do it. What if Hugh Hefner was doing that for the CIA? This could be an outing of that right there. And interestingly enough, Hugh Hefner passed away, or was killed off, or whatever the heck happened to him, but he was killed off a couple weeks ago. This is all evidence and dots connecting of this storm absolutely occurring. And I've known about conspiracies like the truth-seeking movement and whatnot, but even these are connecting a lot of dots in my head with what's going on overseas in Saudi Arabia. I didn't know too much of all of that until these dropped, and oh my god, light bulbs going off in my head, right? So it's cool. And then this one I want to get to as well. What's a honeypot? I don't know. Could research that a little bit. Define blackmail. Exactly that. Like, a lot of these people, you got to understand, a lot of these people in politics and whatnot are blackmailed, and they don't want to be in that situation. They're set up with whatever the case is. There's some videotape of them, and this is, this is how the deep state operates and how they've been able to puppet master so well. So there's a lot of forgiveness that's going to have to be had for these people that don't really want to be in those situations. The more forgiveness we have for them, the faster they can come out, tell their stories, and we can move all this along. We can't be a lynch mob to these people. It's just going to delay the process. But then, of course, there's the question of the people that are complicit and love doing it and just won't give up. Well, then we send their ass, on a rocket ship into the galactic central sun or something like that. Right here, who has all the information? I love this one. Capsed again for the third time. No such agency. NSA. So it's basically, you can see the internal war going on right there. NSA versus CIA. And beautiful thing about the NSA is, it was so covert for so long that it was almost as if it was set up specifically to collect data on the bad guys. Do you see? And of course, there's always infiltration that is had, but it's, the hunter becomes the hunted. Operations are underway and operators are active. So you're seeing it right there. The silent war. Some gets out. We're trying to put the pieces together of what is getting out, doing the best we can. Obviously, sometimes there's emotion that comes into play, and you're like, oh, arrests occurring, I hope they are, or, whatever the case is, but there's always disinformation that comes out, sometimes purposely, right? The Alliance could put out disinformation to make the deep state confused, something to that effect, or the bad guys, good, bad. The bad guys are putting out disinformation to confuse people as well. So it's good. It's fun. This is just fun, deducing it all. And the Great Awakening, couple things here. QMAP half confirmed. This is the key. I don't get it, but some might. And 1 and 2 confirmed. You will need this for the coming weeks. Understand? Put it this way. 6 attempts were made to silence the witness scheduled to appear tomorrow. I covered this last night. That witness is likely the FBI informant that's going to testify at the Uranium-1 scandal, scheduled to testify this week. I forgot his name, but I said it last night. And 6 attempts were made to silence him, trying to silence the guy. So put it in your prayers, keep him safe. Special operators on guard. Lots of security. I'm sure there's a lot of military being put on notice, right? We discussed the Marines at Langley. Might be true, might not. How many jumpers have we had trying to make it into the White House over the past few weeks? I'm sure Secret Service is being bumped up. And a lot of these, of course, Marine generals are putting their people on guard. Bots deactivated upon arrival. Keep up the good fight. It's spreading. What I think this means is just simply 4chan is being assisted. It's being, all the bots and the trolls or whatnot are being kept away from it by positive hacking, right? Possibly the NSA. And it's just allowing this information to come out easier. So bots deactivated upon arrival. A lot less trolls we're seeing in here, hopefully. I don't know, I don't 4chan all that much, but that's my take on all that. So there's some Q stuff and my deductions on that. And now I'm just going to run through all these articles. I have a bunch up here. This is already 18 minutes long. But anyway, like I said earlier, we can do this quick. So I already gave you the notes. Upsurge in big earthquakes predicted for 2018. They say, again, it's because Earth rotation slows. There's many factors at play. Our whole solar system is moving into a more energetic region of space. Also, when it says big earthquakes, could be man-made earthquakes. Could be man-made earthquakes by whoever controls the technology, whether it's positive faction or negative faction. This could be just like a reasoning, a seeding for that, right? So there's going to be earthquakes, though, so contingency plans in place. Good idea. This article, aliens are simply a meteor. Fireball footage was captured by an astronaut in ISS. Spark claimed NASA is hiding evidence of ETs. Of course, NASA, never a straight answer. They've been hiding the evidence of not only extraterrestrial life, but the technology associated with that. Zero-point energy, what gravity and radiation really is. I'm going to cover that in my webinar. But they've been covering that for decades. But now we actually have, again, it's like these come out every few weeks. There's just a blip that flies by the ISS. And it's coming, folks. Understand, disclosure is coming. Disclosure is everything. Disclosure is Pedogate, Uranium-1, Follow the White Rabbit, behind the scenes, you know, Intel Civil War, extraterrestrial, all that jazz. We're going to move into Antarctica stuff. So this is about the ancient fossils. I think I might have covered this in another video, but let's wait for it to load. Got a lot of tabs up. Anyway, this was talking about the fossils that have been found. So, you know, again, there's always these stories, these memes coming out about Antarctica, and the scientists unearthing fossils that reveal how Antarctica was once covered in forests. So there's so much stuff coming out, seeding our consciousness to be ready for larger disclosures about Antarctica. Those disclosures are going to be about ancient civilizations, and we can, you know, that can be debated whether it was Atlantis, whether it was something else, but regardless, ancient civilizations are under the ice there, and Nazi bases were actually constructed there from Nazi expeditions during World War II. So there's a lot of stuff we haven't been told about this South Pole continent. It's all going to be coming out, and in my opinion, the deep state, this is one of their cards, one of their false flags that they've kind of had in their back pockets, was the Antarctica truth. And they've been doing their best to confuse it, right? Putting out flat earth theories and all this nonsense, trying to disinform and confuse the people about Antarctica, because they're trying to keep that as their last disclosure. They could disclose these ancient civilizations or certain half-truths to try to distract everybody from pedogate and trafficking and whatnot, and the deeper, darker stuff from coming out. So watch this. Here's a couple interesting dots we'll connect here. Hot news from Antarctic Underground. This was on NASA. Again, never a straight answer. With their reptile tongue, little reptile slither there on their logo. A new NASA study adds evidence. What they're saying is there's a giant geothermal heat source under the ice in Antarctica that's melting it. Beautiful way they could say, oh shit, what did we stumble upon? Some pyramids or some ancient civilizations, or oh, it's nothing we've ever known about before. Ah, do you see? So that's the false flag you want to be warned for. But check it. They say these geothermal heat sources are under Marie Byrd Land. Antarctica's Marie Byrd Land. That's what they're calling it. Do you see that? I want you to see those words. Marie Byrd Land. So, quickly, if you know about Operation High Jump, look into it. It was Admiral Byrd who America had sent after World War II. This was after World War II in 1947. Admiral Byrd was the admiral that was sent from America to actually attack the German forces in Antarctica that escaped, because in Europe, you got to understand, the Nazis lost. They didn't have the manpower that the Allies had. So what they did is they took their highly advanced technology that they were working on, the anti-gravity tech, the free energy tech, they were able to construct a few flying discs. They took that down to Antarctica. They lost the ground war in Europe, but they didn't lose. They went underground. So they went to Antarctica. Admiral Byrd was the one that was sent in America in 1947 to actually attack the German forces. He took 14 ships, 33 aircraft, like 5,000 men. It was ridiculous. That's not a scientific research expedition. That's military. So Admiral Byrd went out there on a military mission and was destroyed. He was destroyed by the German craft, and actually the non-terrestrials the Germans were partnered with, destroyed, and the Admiral had to retreat to America. Then Operation Paperclip happened, and all these Nazi scientists and whatnot were able to immigrate into America. The Nazis, with their extremely advanced technology, forced the hand of the Americans in that instance. So, quick side note, one reason why this is interesting. Byrd, they called it Marie Byrd Land. It's like they're just hitting you with the truth right over the face. But check this, and I just found this out, surprisingly, I didn't know this before. So where that Birdland is, check it. There's a Rockefeller Plateau in Antarctica in the portion of the interior ice plateau of Marie Byrd Land. Rockefeller Plateau. You see that? It's like it's ridiculous. So here's Marie Byrd Land. And, whoop. Let me get this up here. Marie Birdland, you have Rockefeller Plateau, and Rockefeller Plateau is 666 meters high off above sea level. So right there, man, the dots, they're all connecting. It's crazy. And Rockefeller Plateau. But not only that, not only does this deep state have their like truth in plain sight claim on Antarctica, who has all the information? Who has the information about all of this in Antarctica? Well, we have pieces of it that we can try and decipher, but they have most of it. CIA, and now I guess the NSA does too. Waiting for it, guys. Anyway, Rockefeller Plateau under Marie Birdland, where all the shit's melting, right? Beautiful occult references to any false flag disclosure they wanted to play. There's also a Rothschild Island. Check this out. Rothschild Island, right about there, off the southern tip of South America. So it's just shit, man. It's obvious once you get into it. So it's just, I wanted to make those points known, put it public here. And then quickly, almost finished here, guys, we'll talk about the shit show in the Middle East. So once, of course, Saudi Arabia's been cleaned up, everybody's on alert there. The Arab League holds an emergency session calling Iran and terrorist Hezbollah, saying they must be stopped. Not only that, but speaking of Hezbollah, and these articles are all from Zero Hedge. I like Zero Hedge. Always been a good news source. This isn't really coming up, but Hezbollah on high alert, saying it will be blamed for a false flag assassination attempt. I'm just reading that since the article won't come up. But more people on high alert there. And then Israel gives confirmation of covert ties to Saudi Arabia. Because remember, Israel and Saudi Arabia, try to refresh this. Israel and Saudi Arabia have always been on the public face against each other, bitter enemies. But behind the scenes, and this was actually a senior official in Israel giving confirmation of this. I wish my computer was a little faster here, I could read from it. But basically they were saying Israel does have covert ties to Saudi Arabia. So this gives another data point to the idea, there we go, that with Saudi Arabia, that huge sweep going on there, what we're going to see is hopefully that happened in Israel. And that's why Israel's on such high alert. That's why they scrambled their Air Force when that cleanup happened in Saudi Arabia. We had a corruption policeman question Netanyahu yesterday. Reported on that last night. So let's hope, man. Let's hope that storm starts hitting some other places quick. Especially America and Israel and everywhere else on planet Earth. And then, so that's what's going on in the MidEast. And lastly here, let's talk about the elites selling their stocks, selling their properties, and trying to dip. So, saw this yesterday, Obama vacation home will hit the market for almost $18 million. So we have all these people selling their stocks, Obama selling it at their house, George Soros, all of these evil cult bastards selling their stuff. Soros sells Twitter, Facebook, Apple, and Snap shares. And this is all just within the last week, you guys. So they're selling all their stuff. They're trying to dip out. They're scared. They are scared because they're being cut off. Saudi Arabia's been cut off. Rothschilds are next. So it's only a matter of time before Soros is then implicated, and then that just leaves everybody else out to dry. You got to understand, Hillary Clinton is not high up. Of course, we want her in jail and indicted and whatnot, but there's so many people higher, people we don't even know the names of, that you always have to go for first. You go for the root of the tree if you're going to take it down. So there's right, Hillary Clinton is scared, and they'll all be, their time's close. And I just want to go over this last article here. I want to read it because it is about George Soros, and this broke just today. It's going to give you a hint as to what we're in for. But it says, Soros-tied donor network to ramp up efforts to elect left-wing prosecutors. So what had happened is that there was a gathering of a organization called Democracy Alliance in Southern California last weekend, and it was a very progressive, we could say Soros-backed organization, and what they're trying to do is funnel money into, here we go, Democracy Alliance. See, look at that. I was all off the dome after reading this like once. Democracy Alliance, a secretive left-wing dark money donor network. Don't you love that? I love those words. Even if it's from Fox News. It's just because we know Soros sucks. Whose members each direct hundreds of thousands in funding to progressive groups, is set to ramp up efforts to elect far-left prosecutors across the nation. So it looks like Soros is taking almost all of his money. Remember, $18 billion of his. He transferred $18 billion to his Open Society Foundation. He's trying to funnel that money as quick as he can. This is 2018. This is just a month and a half down the road. He's trying to funnel this money as quick as he can into the progressive groups, the groups that are going to help him. And, you know, whether it is Democrat or Republican, they're calling it progressive now, because that kind of goes above that left-right duality there. But progressive prosecutors, they need to be winning. You know, I'll link this article down below. You can read more into it. But this just shows you how desperate they are. George Soros is investing all of his money to try and win, but it's not going to work. That's quite obvious. So anyway, that's about what I have. That's all for this one, folks. Half an hour. Not bad, I guess. As long. But thanks for all of you who've been watching and who tuned in. And I will be checking back in very soon. So have a great Monday, guys. I'll, go live again as I need to as these stories drop and there's stuff I feel like I need to share with you. So have a beautiful day. Take care. Peace.